Namaskar and good evening to the viewers of Pandit Ravi Shankar Music Foundation. Today we are here marking 101 years of Bharatan Pandit Ravi Shankar ji through our show Reflections, and we are on our 81st episode. On this episode, the guest who will be sharing his experience of Pandit ji is none other than renowned tabla maestro Ustad Fazal Qureshi. On behalf of Pandit Ravi Shankar Music Foundation, I invite Ustad Fazal Qureshi.
Thank you.
नमस्कार.
नमस्कार जी नवरुण जी, कैसे हैं आप?
मैं बहुत अच्छा, बहुत बढ़िया. And really it's an honor to have you on our show Reflections. And,
My pleasure.
And to continue the conversation with you, senior disciple of Pandit ji, I invite Gaurav Mazumdar ji.
फजल भाई नमस्कार.
नमस्कार गौरव जी, कैसे हैं? ठीक है?
बहुत अच्छा. So nice to see you, and what a beautiful picture of Abba ji. What a beautiful.
All his blessings have
all his blessings, and that's the reason. Nabarun, namaskar.
Namaskar.
We are having you here because from such a special family you belong, Fazal bhai, and to get Abba ji's blessings and to share the journey Abba ji had, in this music, which is all over the world celebrated today. Every household, Abba ji has been an important part of this whole movement where Indian music was brought to every household. None other than,
correct,
the great Ustad Allah Rakha Khan Sahab, and with, of course, Guruji, Pandit Ravi Shankar ji. And we are so happy to have you, Fazal bhai. Where do we begin this journey? Take us to the childhood of and the upbringing of Abba ji. Let's go back there and get to know the background where Abba ji came from.
Well, Abba ji had a very humble beginning. He was one of the sort of a 7-8 kins that he had, and he was the eldest of the family, and he was belonging to a very small village in. He was born in a very small village in Jammu called. Now even the names have. It's a very such a small little town in Jammu. Bhagwal was the name of the small little town he was in, and he used to kind of see all these. वो जो आती थी ना, वो नौटंकी जैसे आती थी गांव खेड़ों में, and then they used to do music and everything at that time, and he was fascinated by the instrument tabla from the very early age, and for some reason he always felt that he wanted to play that instrument. And there's a story where he mentioned that he got some, it could be anything, but it's like a revelation for him. He was sitting on the banks of the river, which is part of his village, and he got this kind of a revelation, whatever you call it. A light fell on him, while he was sitting there, and it told him, now you go. I don't know what it was, that it sort of gave him a little indication that you need to leave from here and go somewhere. So his village was not very far from Lahore, actually. It was part of the Jammu section. And while he was like 12 years old or something like that, he left his village and came looking for his guru to Lahore, Mian Qadir Bakhsh. And he was very fascinated by his playing, and he was took him as his guru, and he was playing while he was playing. So then he realized when he was in Jammu that Qadir Bakhsh ji is playing somewhere, in that in the area. So he wanted to meet him. So he went to this particular function where he was participating in that, and he was there, and everyone was performing there, and he wanted to play in front of him so that he got a chance to meet him, and so on and so forth. So he requested the organizers, and he was a small boy. They said, "Ke bhai, theek hai, thodi der baja lena, 5-10 minutes, and then we don't have much time." So they allowed him to go and play. And when he played in front of Qadir Bakhsh ji, he asked him, "Kisse sikha hai bhai tumne bacche?" So he very proudly said that I've learned from you. And he said, but I've never met you before. I've never seen you. You know, he said, but you've always been my guru, and I've always taken you as my guru, and I've learned from. So that was his first meeting with Mia Bakshi. And so he decided to teach Abbaji at that time. So he stayed with his guru, and for 10 years, all his training and everything started on. And while he was there, he started also learn vocal music from Ashik Ali Khan Sahab, Patiala Gharana, and he also got some sort of a vocal. So he was sort of in Lahore for a very long time, and where he All India Radio had just begun there. And Mr. Bukhari was a very famous IAS officer. He was in charge of the All India Radio in Lahore when it was first opened, sometime in 1938, 37, 38 or something like that, way back. And so he was employed by Bukhari ji as part of the All India Radio as a vocalist as well as a tabla player. So he was sort of performing there as a tabla player as well as singing. You know, there is a photograph we have where he's singing with a tanpura, wearing a suit. He actually wearing a coat or shirt, pant karke tanpura baja karke ga rahe. He always loved to dress up. You know, that has been his forte right from the beginning when he was, you know. So that's why. And then Bukhari ji was quite impressed by Abbaji, and so he was transferred from Lahore to Delhi, and he took Abbaji with him to Delhi. So Delhi All India Radio, he was transferred. And then from there, All India Radio Delhi, he came to Bombay. Bukhari ji was transferred again from Delhi to Bombay, and he brought my father finally to Bombay in I think it was way back in 1941 or 42 or something like that. And then he never went back to Punjab or Jammu or anywhere. He sort of made Mumbai, Bombay his home, and lived there. And actually, it was one of those things that I always wondered if Mr. Bukhari ji had not brought my father from Lahore to Delhi and from Delhi to Bombay. I don't know where we would have been, you know, when so we all were sort of born in Bombay, and we were all brought up there, everybody. And so it's a fate that brought him here, and that helped him to actually expand his whatever various things that he did, his singing. And so he got a chance, and he gave music in films, and I think his first film was 1945 or 46 or something like that. And in fact, I remembered one incident with Asha ji had once told me, you know, that in 1949 she sang for my father, you know, for a film and she said that while we were rehearsing, and she was actually pregnant at that time, full term pregnant, really hugely pregnant at that time with her first child. And so Abbaji was kind of, you know, joking with her and said, you know, jaldi se galo warna duet gana padega, you know, jaldi. So that was Asha ji's first meeting Abbaji way back in 1949, you know, that time. So his career as a tabla player as well as a music director in films began at that time. And in fact, the story Abbaji once mentioned that the first time he met Ravi ji was also while he was employed in All India Radio in Bombay. And he said that, and there was an interview that came of him way back in one of his papers in Bombay, where Ravi ji actually traveled with his sitar all the way from Borivali, which is one of those suburbs in Mumbai, to Churchgate, which is like the end of the suburban line, the western line, where the radio station was. And Abbaji was waiting for him, you know, to receive him, you know, and to bring him to the radio station, because that was his first trip to Mumbai All India Radio station. So Ravi ji also came in the train all the way from Borivali, carrying his sitar with all the hustle bustle of the train, as well as of all the commuters in Mumbai, and reached Churchgate, and he was welcomed by Abbaji and brought to the radio station at Churchgate, and they did the recording. That was the first time they actually played together, and Abbaji said,
Fazal Bhai, which year was this? Do you have any idea?
This I can't remember the year, because this was really way back. Probably early 50s or something like that.
Okay.
Really, because Abbaji didn't spend too much time in All India Radio. Once he started doing music in films as well as performing, so he kind of resigned from there. But this was one of those time when he was part of the All India Radio, where Raviji came.
And that was their first ever meeting.
Their first ever meeting, and they played together. And Abbaji decided, I said कि भाई चलो आओ खाना साथ में खाते हैं. उसके बाद ट्रेन पकड़ के वापस जाना. Let's have lunch together. So they had lunch at that time, and in fact, even when Abbaji's first meeting with Ali Akbar Khan Sahab also happened in All India Radio. And Ali Akbar Khan Sahab came and played there, and he, for some reason, was not telling Abbaji who he was. He was not informing Abbaji, and Abbaji played with him, and then Abbaji said, "No, it's not possible. Your playing reminds me of Alauddin Khan Sahab. There is no way." कुछ भलता ही नाम बता दिया उन्होंने, कुछ भलता ही, क्योंकि वो घर से भाग के आए थे. तो भलता ही उन्होंने किसी गुरु का नाम बताया कि भाई इनसे मैंने सीखा है और ये वो. तो अब्बाजी ने कहा ये हो ही नहीं सकता, तुम्हारे बजाने से ऐसा लग रहा है कि you belong to that घराना or something like that. So finally he confessed to Abbaji and he said, नहीं मैं उनका ही लड़का हूँ. बोले छुपाने की क्या बात है इसमें. So that's so All India Radio seemed to be the meeting point of Abbaji with Ali Akbar Khan Sahab as well as with Ravi ji. So that's the first time Abbaji played with him and as well as with Ravi ji. And so those was his earlier days, where in fact I remember when we celebrated Abbaji's 80th birthday, and all these stalwarts were there on the stage, and including C.R. Vyas ji and Bhimsen ji and Ravi Shiv ji, Hari ji, and so on and so forth. Everyone was there. And C.R. Vyas ji, I remember, mentioned very, very clearly. He says, "Bhai, nowadays you're talking about Zakir Hussain, this, Zakir Hussain, that, this and that." He says, in those days, we used to wait for Ustad Allah Rakha's tabla solo on the radio. He was so popular because we were so fascinated by his playing that we used to wait eagerly for Ustad Allah Rakha's tabla performance on the radio. So, I mean, he was, those days was, like amazing for musicians also, and for coming together. And Abbaji, of course, he was a special talent, took his chances that came to him and made his name. So the thing is, he wanted to differentiate between being a classical musician or classical tabla player as well as a music director. So he used a different name, not a different name, but he was calling himself A.R. Qureshi, Allah Rakha Qureshi. Qureshi is our surname, of course. And he was using Allah Rakha only by itself for the stage performances. So he was kind of making the two lives of his sort of a different, differentiated them in a way. And so those was his earlier days,
But, working in All India Radio, his travel from Lahore to Delhi and then to Bombay, and meeting all the great artists of his time. They were all relatively young, of course, but they were all wonderful, great artists, whether it's Guruji or Ali Akbar Khan Sahab. Or what was that one thing which brought Guruji and Abbaji together and made them so close and work for such a long time and travel all over the world?
I think it's the first time chemistry that was created, when they played together, in fact there was one, I think the story was that there was a delegation going to Japan or something like that, and artists were decided kaun jayega, and I think if I'm not mistaken, Ravi ji was also part of that, and Abbaji's name was recommended by the artists who were there, including Ravi ji. कि भाई इनको भी लेके चलते हैं. This was in the 50s, I think. इनको भी लेके चलते हैं साथ में. So then Abbaji's name was part of the group, and in that, I think that was after the recording in the All India Radio. That was the first, probably one of those earlier concerts of his that Ravi ji and Abbaji played together as a delegation that went from India to Japan, and Abbaji was part of that, and Ravi ji and Abbaji at that time played, and I think it was a chemistry. It was we cannot say what it was, but I think it was the the long lost brotherly love that existed, which kind of brought them together, and it created, but with Abbaji had good relation with everyone, including Bilal Khan Sahab, including Ali Akbar Khan Sahab, including everybody, who was around him, Amir Khan Sahab, etc. But he had a special connection with Ravi ji, which is amazing, which we cannot, like for instance, if you listen to with Zakir Bhai, with all the other artists, and then you're listening Zakir Bhai with Shiv Kumar Sharma ji, Shiv ji, it's an amazing chemistry Zakir Bhai has with Shiv ji. When they play together, it's like, each one is anticipating the other one. अब जाकिर भाई knows beforehand कि ये अभी कौन सी तिहाई आने वाली है शिव जी की, and simultaneously Shiv ji also has idea what he's going to. So I think it's a human factor, and this particular connection that Abbaji had with Ravi ji, which just blossomed when they started playing together. It's just amazing. I remember all these concerts I used to attend in the 60s. As a child in Bombay, Chanmukanand Hall used to be not a classical music auditorium, because it was such a huge place that it was very difficult for any classical musician to actually fill up that place. Ravi ji was the only one who was able to do that. And their concerts were such great performances that had not only the common man coming, but also the elite. The governors were there, ministers used to be there, film stars used to come and listen to the performance of, Ravi ji and Abbaji. So it's amazing, the chemistry was, beyond description, the way they came together, And I wanted to tell you about one incident that I personally had in one of those concerts with sitting. I used to sit on the stage when Abbaji and Ravi ji were performing, and I have a photograph with me which I will show you. Sure. Ravi ji is there and Abbaji is here, and I'm sitting in the middle of the two of these guys, and Ravi ji is playing the alap chal raha hai unka, and he was at that time, and still later on, he never allowed any of the press or the camera guys to take a photo of his while he's playing the alap, because he didn't want it to get disturbed that time. So alap chal raha hai and everyone quietly listening, and suddenly Ravi ji looked at me, and he saw me very engrossed in his alap, listening to his alap, and at that very moment he indicated to one of the photographers who were there in the audience to take a photo. Now that man was also shocked because Ravi ji didn't allow any photo, and here he is indicating him to take a photo. So, and then suddenly, then he realized that actually he was telling to take a photo of the child sitting next to me like this. He was doing. So that photo was taken, and it was sent to me with a note, blessing me and giving me. So here's the photo I wanted to show you of me. That's me there. If you can see the photo.
How beautiful.
And that's Abbaji actually behind me, and his and his tabla. You can see his tabla clearly, and yes. There I'm sitting in between, and Ravi ji is on my left, and Abbaji is on my right. and I'm right in the middle, and this photo was taken and then sent to me. Addressed to me and sent it. Those days we were staying in Mahim, and this photograph came, and so it was an amazing experience, even for a small child like me to receive a photo like this, you know. So a blessing, you know, a blessing. And because for some reason his alap was always fascinating, you know, the way he used to play the alap, it was just engrossing. So even for a small child, for me, it was engrossing for me to sit there and listen to this performance, you know, of his. And Abbaji is sitting right next to, and he got little bit behind so that he could be out of the frame, and the whole picture could be of me and not him coming into the. So he also moved a little bit on the. All this is happening while Ravi is playing the alap. Can you imagine?
Beautiful, beautiful. You know, somehow, Fazal Bhai, I have always, whenever I have heard story of the Mahim place of Abbaji, the whole ambience, even now when I go there, it's a crowded place, but I think a lot of blessing came living in that area with the dargah around and kind of musicians who came to Abbaji's home.
Correct.
And I want you to tell us about the Mahim place of yours, because that's where Abbaji came from. That's where his struggles were. That's where Abbaji became Abbaji. And
absolutely.
Also, if you remember any incidents where you remember Guruji coming to that house, and what was that house all about? You know, because I feel there is a lot of blessing which came while Abbaji was living there with all of you. And it's a huge blessing from wherever, like the blessing he got at the bank of the river in near Jammu.
Correct.
I think that Mahim house had a lot to do with who Abbaji eventually became, and that association of Guruji and Abbaji.
Absolutely. I think Mahim did have that effect. In fact, I have a lot of memories of that place with all musicians coming in. And in fact, my father, I actually don't have a memory of Raviji coming there and meeting, but I know that he had come several times to come and meet Abbaji in that place. And Mahim is amazingly, because it was surrounded by a lot of musicians used to live there, including Abdul Halim Jafar Khan Sahab used to be there. And there was all these other Qawwalis, you know, Jani Babu. And, you know, there were so many musicians surrounding that Mahim area at that time. And Abbaji was one of the people who was there in the place was. And in fact, our house was there on the ground floor of the building. Building was about a two-story building. It was called Akram Terrace. And next to our house was a one-room apartment. I mean, just like a small room. Ghulam Mustafa Khan was there in that. He used to live in that small little room there. I used to remember seeing him coming and going, and in fact, Zakir's first album, believe it or not, was with Ghulam Mustafa Khan Sahab and Shamim Bhai, by the way.
Yes.
Long time ago. That was in the 60s, you know. Zakir Bhai was probably 14 or something, and so the HMV came out with an album of Ghulam Mustafa Khan Sahab, and Zakir Bhai played with him, and of Shamim Bhai, Zakir Bhai played with him. It was definitely, as you mentioned, some sort of a because I remember there used to be this sandal that happens every year, you know, and where the procession leaves and all the. So we used to have one. The Shanai, they used to call an Afghani Shanai called Tota. There was this. There was one person who actually was an Afghani person. He used to be Abbaji's close pal, and he was also having a band. You know, like the music band, Indian music band. If you remember, they play for marriages. Usme wo, you know, horns are there, and clarinet is there, and wo dhol bajta hai. So they, you know, it's like a big huge band. Zakir Bhai used to play in the front. He used to take the dhol and used to be playing the dhol when the procession was going from Mahim, from the inside of the dargah, and he used to go for a while and then turn around and come back again to the dargah. And Zakir Bhai was playing the dhol, and Miskin Chacha, he was known as Miskin Chacha. And Miskin Chacha playing the Shenai and the Tota, and Zakir Bhai used to play the dhol, playing all the way there and come back to the bringing in the chadar, the big chadar, and putting it on the dargah itself. So lots of music, lots of things were happening. And in fact, the story is that when Zakir Bhai became 1 year old, there was a big concert organized by Abbaji, right in front of the place, the Mahim, and the road was blocked, and musicians came and performed there, for Zakir Bhai's first birthday. So there was a lot of music, and Abbaji had some sort of energy there, definitely, considering the fact that none of us were my mother had seen bad days, in the earlier part of his career, went through a lot of financial problems and so on and so forth, and she was not very keen that any of us do music. By the way, my mother was very keen that all of us study and do some sort of a office work or something, become engineer or something, and go to office, have a 9-to-5 job, have a what you call regular income coming to the house, because she was one of the practical ladies, and my father was not a practical man at all. He's a musician, and so she was absolutely not against, but she wanted all of us to study and do something else rather than, because hardship and everything my father went through, and she also has seen it. She's been married to him since 1942, and so she's seen the what he went through. So she was not very keen, but unfortunately for her, we all went into music, including and Zakir Bhai used to bunk school and go and perform with somebody. My mother used to go to the school, and the school was right there at St. Michael's, and she used to leave Zakir Bhai there, and then she used to go back lunchtime to find out whether he's there or not. She used to go and talk to the principal and ask him whether मेरा लड़का है कि बोले देखा था अभी नजर नहीं आ रहा है. So he used to just go off somewhere to practice with somebody or to play and all that stuff. It's one of those things that came very naturally to Zakir Bhai to do it, and unfortunately for my mother, we all sort of went into music and all did that. So I think the Mahim place was definitely a blessing in disguise for my father. When he came to stay there, was one of the best decisions probably he did when he first came to Mumbai. And in fact, I remember there's another area which is called Parel area, which is actually not a suburb, but it's like in central in Mumbai. And we were passing in the car, and I was sitting with him, and we were going, I don't know where we were going, but we were passing in that area. We actually don't take that road much. So we took that road, and he suddenly remembered, and he looked up at one of the buildings, and he said, "Arey, इस building में जब मैं आया था पहली बार, यहाँ पे एक कमरे में मैं रह रहा था." So, I mean, suddenly he remembered that एक कमरा यहाँ पर भी था, वहाँ पर मैं रहता था वहाँ पर. So he remembered there from Parel, he came to Mahim. Mahim, can you imagine in Mahim, Sitara Devi ji, used to live in Mahim. When we were in Mahim, Abbaji's best friend, I would say, was Sitara Devi. On the main road itself, when we were inside. And when we came to live at Nepean Road, she also came to live at Nepean Road. And Ranjit Bhai is still living there in the same house at Nepean Road. And of course, Shimla House is still there at Nepean Road. So, there was, as you said, there was lots and loads of musicians around who were living in that area. And, so I think that was the best thing that probably happened to him, and best thing that happened to all of us.
I think that there was a lot of dua.
Absolutely.
There was a lot of the coming together of Pandit Ravi Shankar ji and Ustad Fazal Qureshi. It changed the music world forever. It, of course, changed, I think, Abbaji's lifestyle and Abbaji from. Tell us about that journey, and tell us about that journey from how they became a superstar and how the music world and everything changed.
I think Abbaji was always an open-minded man, before he even ventured out for, But when he traveled with Raviji, I mean, I want to touch this part where how mentally he changed because of these performances with him and traveling with him. He was an uneducated man. He couldn't even write his name, and he was not well versed with English. He was not able to write his name. He learned. Raviji told him that भैया जी, he used to call him भैया जी, आपको सीखना पड़ेगा, आपको थोड़ी सी अंग्रेजी बोलनी पड़ेगी, आप सीखिए. And then Raviji sort of told him that you must do this. So he did it, and he learned how to sign his name in English and all that. And he started speaking kind of a broken kind of thing, broken English with continued, and sort of became a little better over a period of time while he was traveling with, Raviji and performing there abroad and all that. So his mental thinking so much, he became so broad-minded, because when we were born, by the time we came into the picture, he was absolutely a different person altogether, what he was, say, in the 40s or the 50s. He did not force any of us to play tabla. He says, "Ki bhai, jo tumko karna hai karo." His mentality, his thinking changed so much, and he didn't force me or my younger brother to take tabla. He said, whatever it is. But his mental thing was totally different when Zakir Bhai was born in the 50s. He the first boy in the family, and he wanted Zakir Bhai to, and Zakir Bhai, of course, showed all the signs of he's going to play tabla. All the signs were already there. He performed with Ali Akbar Khan Sahab at the age of 9 on the stage. Halaki Ali Akbar Khan Sahab and Abbaji were performing, and Zakir Bhai was just sitting there. And during the interview, Zakir Bhai just took up the tabla and started playing. Khan Sahab said, "Arey, ladka baja raha hai, bajane do usko mere saath thodi der." So that's how Ali Akbar Khan Sahab, Zakir Bhai played with Ali Akbar Khan Sahab while he was just 9 years old. So he already showed sign of it, and Abbaji used to take him everywhere for all his recordings and everything. So there was that little thing that there. But when we came into the picture, he was already traveling so much, and he was performing. His mindset change. He started speaking English. He started signing his name in English, so on and so forth. His whole attitude, his whole demeanor, everything changed. And he sort of had a different point of view altogether. When I was growing up, he didn't force me to play tabla. He said exactly whatever you want to do, you do. If you want to study, you study. I was very much into sports. I used to be playing all the games: cricket, football, hockey, everything, running. I was the fastest boy in the class, in the school. I used to be doing all that, and my mind was absolutely into sports and all that. And in fact, my name first came in the papers in Times of India because I scored a goal from my school, and my name came. Fazal Qureshi scored a goal for Hillgrange High School. That was the name of my school. So that was my first paper. The newspaper had my name as a footballer. Can you imagine that? Scored a goal for my school. So I was not into that, but it's just that over a period of time. But I used to go. Zakir Bhai used to take me for his performances. I used to go and listen to Abbaji. I used to, all the performances were happening at that time in the 60s. Before Zakir Bhai left for America, I used to travel. I used to go with him for all his concerts. He used to take me. I was very small. He used to take me. Chalo, aa jao, idhar chalo, idhar chalo. So he used to take me along. So what I'm trying to say is that those travel that he had. I mean, I'm not talking about the performance right now, but the mental development that he had, his whole point of view. He became such a broad-minded musician. He just was, a totally a different person altogether, an evolved person. And then, of course, performing with Ravi ji. And see, one thing you must is one has to acknowledge the fact that he was a Ravi ji, for all he was a classical musician, but he was such a maverick man. He knew exactly how to not only to impress, of course, with his playing, but he knew what would work with the foreign sort of what do you call audiences. He was the first person to have a tabla solo happening in between his performances.
Mm-hmm.
He was the first person to do a jugalbandi happening between tabla and sitar, which had never attempted, never thought of, never realized. Raviji was the first person to do that. Raviji was the first one. He used to sit with the tal on the stage where Abbaji used to play a solo, and so there his point of view was that performance is a teamwork. It's not I'm the main artist and I'm going to be the main person. I will do this. No, for him, performance was a teamwork. If we gel as a team, the performance will definitely be one of the most memorable performances. And that is very obvious when you see these performances that they performed in a Woodstock festival or the Montreal Jazz Festival. The one that पंचम से गारा जो है और वो दोनों बजाया जो है और वो जो जुगलबंदी हो रही है और वो जो all that fascinating, all that and it's classical music. Of course it's classical music, it's traditional music, but the way it has been presented और बीच में अब्बा जी का solo, and people were fascinated with that because he was reciting and he was performing whatever he was reciting. It was something new for the audience to watch. So this is the kind of musician Ravi ji was. He was a very well forward thinking. He was way ahead of his time. People were still thinking of doing an alap for an hour and a half and keeping the performances with the tabla as short as possible and not really. And here he was doing exactly the opposite. And he was creating something unique to present to the audience, and that's one of the reasons why the chemistry was much more, because you're so happy. They were so happy to play with each other. Basically, Abbaji was so happy to play with Raviji because he was playing a solo in between, and they were having fun on the stage where they were doing jugalbandis and so on and so forth, and creating a climax. The climax the way they and Raviji hitting on Abbaji's baya at the last dha, amazing. And that's absolutely the ultimate, I would say, of performance that has never been emulated by anyone. So this is what he was all about. He was a musician par excellence, plus he was a presenter par excellence. He knew exactly how to present a performance. Everyone loved, as I said, Shanmuganand Hall, 2,500 people in the 60s, absolutely packed with people coming to listen to classical music. 2 people sitting on the stage, Raviji and my father. That's it. And the 2,500 log baitha hua hai, chupchap sun raha hai, enjoying a 5-hour performance. I mean, there was one incident I must tell you. I just remembered. In the 70s, performance हो रहा है रंग भवन में. रवि जी और अब्बा जी बजा रहे, and रात के करीब 9 बजे. रंग भवन is, you may have seen that, it's an open air auditorium, and 9 बजे शुरू हुआ, रात के 2 बजे खत्म हो गया performance. अब we finished it and got up. Somebody got from behind, from the audience, and he says, Pandit ji, हमारी आखिरी ट्रेन तो निकल गई है, there was the train 1:30 the train used to stop. हमें और 2 घंटा यहाँ बैठना पड़ेगा, 4:30 बजे हमारी ट्रेन शुरू होगी, कृपा करके आप थोड़ा सा और बजाइए प्लीज. Ravi ji obliged. He sat down and he played till 4:30 in the morning so that the audience could go and take the train and go to their houses. Can you imagine this? How long was the performance? 8:30 in the night it started and finished at 4:30 in the morning, and all the audience is sitting raptured, and they were just wouldn't move. So this is how it was. This is how their performances used to be, and this is how Ravi ji's presentation used to be. He changed the whole. अभी आजकल सभी लोग वही कर रहे हैं जो उन्होंने शुरू किया. Everyone is following the same thing what Ravi ji started, the way he taught, the way he presented, and the way he presented my father also was amazing, was unique. And he used to say those tabla syllables and Abbaji used to play. That was a fascinating thing for everyone who was, in the audience who was sitting there. And of course, when Abbaji was playing a solo, and Abbaji, I tell you one thing, I would, one would say that Abbaji would play a solo in Teen Tal, Teen Tal mein solo bajayenge aur kya. If you pick up one of those records, of Abbaji, Ravi ji and Abbaji, he has played 15 beats, he has played 11 beats, he has played 9 beats, no Teen Tal solo, but he has played every 17 beats. He's Shikhar Tal, he's played a solo in 17 beats also. So, Abbaji was also inspired for some reason and playing solo in all these different tals, which obviously, or whether the audience understood or not, is not really the important thing. Is that he was playing solo in every other tal except Teen Tal, So he was also, my father, as I said, the different personality altogether. He changed, he was a different person altogether. And I think it is the association. And I have witnessed their performances in the 60s. I have witnessed their performances in the 70s. I have seen their performances in the 80s. And I can see that the chemistry did not diminish. It just, both of them knew exactly what the other person is going to do. And just, they were just fascinated, fascinating. It's just difficult to explain the chemistry that was there, between them.
Did Abbaji ever speak any incident or anything about Ravi ji? Tell us some story. I'm sure he must have shared.
One of the story I already mentioned, that how Ravi ji traveled by train and he came to all India, and they had lunch together after that. Abbaji treated him, by the way, and then so that was one of the incident, and there was so many amazing incidences of Abbaji cooking, actually, basically for all the musicians who were there, including Ravi ji. During the 1974 tour, the Black Horse tour or something like that, was with all the Western musicians as well as the Indian, where Ravi ji had taken everyone, Shiv ji, Hari ji, Karthik ji, L. Subramaniam ji, everyone was part of that. And
Dark Horse tour.
The Dark Horse tour, and and also with George Harrison on the other side, Peter Sellers. They were actually traveling. I think it was Peter Sellers' private plane or something like that. I don't know. And Sultan Khan Sahib was also part of that, and my sister, my sister was there. So Ravi ji, Abbaji was one of the people who was the cooking man. He used to decide to one of those days, I'm going to cook today. So he used to get all these musicians to come and help him out. So कोई प्याज काट रहा है, तो कोई आलू काट रहा है, तो कोई कुछ काट रहा है, and Abbaji used to cook, and everyone, and he used to invite everyone. भाई आइए, सब लोग आइए हमारे साथ बैठ के खाना खाएं. And he used to cook chicken and rice, and everybody. My sister was telling me, Khurshid Appa, by the way, Khurshid Appa was part of that. She was traveling with Abbaji as part of that. So having all sorts of delicacies cooked by my father. Ravi ji was also part of this and Shivji was there, Hariji was there, Sultan Khan Sahab, Subramaniam ji, everyone, you know, eating what Abbaji was cooking. So I mean, and you see, the thing is, for Abbaji being on the stage, and once he's off the stage, in fact, what he would do, he would sing, and he would cook, he would do all sorts of other things rather than the tabla. And so he was fascinated by all that, you know, and all these incidences were all part of it. There's one film that actually is circulating, and they're all in one of these gardens in San Francisco, all of them, Abbaji and Raviji. If you have seen that film, it's there on YouTube for some reason. And that incident was, Abbaji had mentioned, you know, कि भाई हम तो वो garden में जा करके हम लोग सब बोल पढ़ रहे थे ये वो, and suddenly I see this film which is actually was made, I think, part of Raviji's documentary or something like that. And
Raga.
Yes, Raga. Correct.
Raga, yeah, the film Raga, yeah.
Long time. I think it was 71, 72. Ashish Khan,
late 60s.
Yes, Ashish Da was also there, part of that, and so on and so forth. So it is amazing, you know, the kind of childlike sort of, you know, I've seen them sit down and talk to each other and cracking jokes. Raviji, the sense of humor Raviji had, oh my God, it is something, you know. I remember one tour they were doing in 1982, or was it 81? Raviji and Aliya Khan Sahab playing, Abbaji and Zakir Bhai played, part of Rimpa, I think, festival tour.
Yes, music is gold. Music is gold.
And Raviji, and they played the concert in Bombay, and they were going to Maihar from here.
Outstanding concert. That was an outstanding concert, Fazal Bhai.
Correct. And they
उसमें चारों लोग, क्या खान साहब, क्या गुरुजी, क्या अब्बाजी, क्या जाकिर भाई. Oh my God. Music at its best can never be recreated or surpassed. Music at its best.
Correct.
मतलब वो concert था, Fazal Bhai. I wasn't there, unfortunately, but I later heard the recording of that. You know, anything you take, if you take choice of ragas, that's the concert. You take alap, that's the concert. You take Jayakari, that's the concert. You take Sangat, that's the concert. Sound production, that's the concert. Teamwork, that's an example for anything about our music, you say, and that was it at such high level. Puriya Kalyan and Zila Kafi and क्या concert था फजल भाई वो.
Correct. अरे तो मैं उसी का इंसिडेंट बता रहा हूँ कि यहाँ से बॉम्बे से they were going to Maihar, and so there is no flight to go, and there was one train which led from Bombay to Maihar. Now that train didn't even have a first class bogie, didn't even have an AC bogie, didn't have a first class bogie, nothing. So the railway people, Western Railway people, the Central Railway people obliged. They put a special bogie for these artists. An AC first class bogie was put on the last, at the end of the train was put. I remember to VT station with my father, and that bogie was there, and there was a special man from the railway waiting for these guys, and he took them and made them sit down, and Raviji sat and he looked around, and it was very hot, and it was getting, you know, AC on me. First thing that he says, "Arey bhai, koi hai yahan pe, AC on karo, warna AC ki taisi ho jayegi." I mean, what a sense of humor on the spot. He says, "अरे AC on करो वरना AC की तैसी हो जाएगी." यार देखो सब जल्दी भागा सब इधर, और एक बोगी है और उसमें कूपे थे, तो एक कूपे में रवि जी बैठे, एक कूपे में अब्बा जी बैठे, एक कूपे में अली खान साहब बैठे, और एक कूपे था जिसमें जाकिर भाई थे. So everyone had their own coupe, and the train was specially stopped for all these guys to come and settle. और फिर जैसे वो बैठे उसके बाद ट्रेन निकली वहां से सीधा मैहर. तो I mean, it is the sense of humor. Oh my God! I mean, Shamim bhai बता रहे थे. I mean, this is really. I mean, I'm talking about his sense of humor. Shamim bhai बता रहे थे कि Shamim bhai went for a shopping with Ravi ji, and Ravi ji shopping करने के बाद उनको फिल्मों का भी बहुत शौक. Ji loved film. I remember one concert, Ravi Ji and Abba Ji was playing at Rang Bhavan itself. And in the audience, Amitabh Bachchan is sitting, you know. And Ravi Ji was like, Amitabh Bachchan before going on to the stage, he said, भैया जी अमिताभ बच्चन आगे बैठा हुआ है ऑडियंस में बोले अच्छा माय फादर फॉर हिम इट वाज नथिंग यू नो और वो फिर बैठे और जैसे वो हुआ तो इंटरवल हुआ तो उन्होंने अनाउंस किया अनाउंसर थे वो सिंह बंधु के उन्होंने ऑर्गेनाइज किया था तो सुरेंद्र जी और उनके वो सिंह बंधु द सिंगर्स इफ यू रिमेंबर दे वर द सिंग ब्रदर्स दे वर सो दे आर करेक्ट एंड और वो हुआ इंटरवल तो वो आए कि भाई वी रिक्वेस्ट श्री अमिताभ बच्चन टू कम एंड गिव बुके टू and Ravi ji was beaming away, you know. I remember that scene and Amitabh Bachchan as usual walking up the steps, he jumped up, you know, onto the stage like that and everyone clapped, you know, like oh my god, ye to bahut achhi baat. And he went there, he touched Ravi ji's feet and Abba ji's feet and gave the bouquet and all that. So Shamim bhai bata rahe ki wo jab shopping kiya no if you it's a very interesting joke, you know, it's actually based on the name of the films. So wo dil ki jagah bill kar diya gaya hai to wo तो ये क्या कह रहे हैं शमीम भाई कह रहे हैं जब वो बिल लेके आया तो वो कह रहे क्या कह रहे हैं कि फिर वही बिल लाया फिर वही बिल तो रवि जी कह रहे हैं बिल देके देखो और फिर शमीम भाई कह रहे हैं कि बिल दिया दस लिया ये बिल ही तो है I mean, it's amazing the sense of humor. It's you know it's so much fun, and for me, I actually got blessed performing on the stage with him with Abba Ji. You know, once long time ago, 86
yes, you have to tell us about this. You have to tell us about this concert.
This concert happened way back in 86, 85, 86. I was absolutely new, and Ravi Ji was in one of his good moods and he said कि भाई लड़का बजा रहा है चलो थोड़ी देर ये भी हमारे साथ बजा लेगा तो अब्बा जी ने कहा कि भाई चलो तुम देखना वो कॉन्सर्ट हो रहा है you play. So Ravi ji and Abba ji played the first half, you know, as usual, you know, at Shanmuganand Hall, and then the second half in the second part of the concert जैसे जिस तरह से उस जमाने में जाकिर भाई ज्वाइन किया करते थे. I remember जाकिर भाई joining in the early 70s. पहले हाफ में अब्बा जी और रवि जी और अब्बा जी बजा लिए फिर उसके बाद सेकंड हाफ में जाकिर भाई तो फिर मुझे बुलाया गया. So I sat, so this was way back and it was, I mean it wasn't like I was the most nervous, you know. I mean don't ask me to describe how I was. I just went there and I just played and short. It was a very short thing, but it was one of those, you know, I can't believe it that I was on the stage with the greatest musicians of all time and performing on that. But it was an experience. But later on, I got a chance to practice with him a few times. You know, he used to come to Bombay. He was at Joshipura ji's house. He used to stay at Pedder Road, at Altamont Road. Joshipura ji का घर था, and every time he used to be there, he used to come and stay there. And I remember वो बहुत सारे उनका था, उन्होंने मुझे फोन किया, बोले आ जाओ तुम जरा तबला लेके आ जाना. So I went and everyone was there. Karthik ji was there and Shamim bhai was there and Dubey ji at that time was the you know the manager and all that. And बहुत सारे लोग बैठे हुए थे, सब बैठे हुए. रवि जी ने practice शुरू किया. And I played with him for at least an hour. So like this, and I remembered also practicing with him when Anushka was playing for the first time in Bombay. Zakir Bhai was supposed to play at the NCPA, and Ravi ji called me up and said, "Bhai, tabla leke aa jao." So I went, and Ravi ji was there, Anushka was there, and I was there. So I got a chance to play with Anushka also, practicing on this, you know, at home. With Ravi ji and Anushka, and then the performance happened with Zakir Bhai at NCBA. So I was blessed. I was blessed because he used to tell me while I was playing कि भाई अच्छा तुम मैं ये बजा रहा हूँ तो तुम ये बजाओ, ये बजाना तुम इसमें, okay. So I used to play that, and then थोड़ी देर के बाद वो थोड़ा आगे गए, फिर उसके बाद देखो मैं ये कर रहा हूँ तो फिर तुम भी. So it was like almost learning कि किस तरह से संगत करनी चाहिए. It was like almost for me it was like a lesson, a lesson in disguise. It was a lesson in disguise, and it was good of me to be. I was aware of it, that I learned so much by just practicing with him at home with all the other students sitting. वाह भी चल रही है और फिर वो बीच में बोल रहे एक काम करो, मैं ये बजा रहा हूँ तुम उसके साथ ये बजा लेना, ओके. तो फिर मैं वो चीज उसके साथ, तो it was like opening up my mind कि what else I could do besides playing a rela or playing tukda here and there. But you can also, you could do that also. So it was such a learning experience to be. I'm totally really blessed to be there, and practice with him. It was just amazing experience for me.
Wonderful. What wonderful stories. There is one thing which a lot of people have heard Fazal Bhai, and was a very, very touching incident. I would like you to tell us the time when unfortunately Abbaji left all of us. And I think Zakir Bhai was touring and Guruji was also traveling that time. But correct. Guruji actually did manage to reach there, and because he did want to say a final goodbye to his dear friend and his brother and his colleague, whatever you might want to say. And this true union which was made in heaven of these two great stalwarts, great musicians, coming together and creating this magic and changing things forever. Tell us about that whole episode, because you were there.
Yes, when this happened, when my father passed away, Zakir Bhai and I, we both were not there actually. We were performing in Calicut at that time, and in fact, Abbaji was supposed to be with us. The three of us were supposed to play at Calicut on that day. And Abbaji said, मैं थोड़ा सा तबीयत मेरी ठीक नहीं है, तुम दो चले जाओ, तुम दोनों जा करके बजा लेना. That's what he said, And I said, हमने कहा ठीक है. And of course, it was triggered by my sister's death, basically. On the very same day that she passed away, going for an eye operation of all the things, and both of us, both Zakir Bhai and I, we never got a chance to really, say goodbye to him or anything, nothing of that sort. He said कि तुम लोग चले जाओ, performance है, मैं नहीं आ पा रहा हूँ, तुम लोग दोनों जा करके बजा लेना. And Sultan Khan was also with us, and we both left. And next day, can you imagine this? We are performing on the stage, Zakir Bhai and I. At 8:30, at that time, my sister passed away. Suddenly the mics went off. Around 8:30. So the mic suddenly went off. We both are in the middle of the performance. Mic suddenly stopped. There was, silence. Suddenly it happened. And we were wondering what is happening. Why the sound suddenly went away, suddenly. And the sound engineer didn't know what was happening. He sort of putting cable there, cable here, and suddenly like this. Kuch nahi. And after about 5 minutes, the sound came back. We started playing and we finished. We went to the hotel and we got the news that my sister passed away. And we took a taxi, and while we were on the way from Cochin, from Calicut to Cochin, because there was no morning flight, we had to go to Cochin, and at Cochin airport when we reached, we got the news that Abbaji also passed away. So we got the sort of a two news while on the way from, and then so there, you won't believe this, but we were in Dubai after my father passed away. after 10 days, we were in Dubai, doing Abbas, Zakir Bhai and all of us. Ravi ji called. And he was in Dubai at that time. No, he was not in Dubai. I can't remember where he was. He called and he says कि Zakir का phone नहीं लग रहा है. कैसे हो तुम लोग? He spoke to me, actually, because for some reason, no. What happened was the receptionist down गलती से उन्होंने मेरा फोन दे दिया, मेरे कमरे का फोन, instead of Zakir Bhai. For some reason, or Zakir Bhai did not answer or something like that. The phone came, and he said that I don't know what to say. I lost a brother, and a part of me is gone. That's all he said. That's all he said to me. A part of me is gone, and tum log theek raho. I'm going to come to India and I'll see you guys, and just keep yourself as just don't worry. We are all here. That was his conversation with me. Can you imagine? I got to speak with him. I got to speak with Ravi ji at that time, and not Zakir Bhai. And he just said a part of me just left. I just don't know what to say at that moment. So that was his reaction, at that time. And of course, we met after that also many times, and he came home also after that. But it was very obvious that something, जैसे वो होता है ना कि ऐसा बुझ जाता है थोड़ा सा, light just goes away and the dim. It was so obvious on his face that it's something has left, is gone, something is gone. And he mentioned it, that कुछ मेरा एक हिस्सा चला गया. That's it. So that was his reaction to.
That was absolutely so shocking for the whole music world. But Fazal Bhai, they are all with us. They have shown us the path. They have given us this gift of music, and we are ever so blessed to have seen them, to have learned from them, to have been in their presence, and carry the music forward in a very little way. Just before this episode, Fazal Bhai, Chinnamma called, and Sukanya ji, she was mentioning how special you are to her and to all of us. And we do really, really love you and very fond of you, Fazal Bhai.
I just love, she came, she was there. If you remember 2019, we both played at, for the Abbaji's birthday celebration. You remember, Gaurav, you and I, we both played together.
Yes.
And she was there and she blessed, I just wanted it was so nice of her to be there. And I have a special connection with her because I played at her house, with Deepak ji. With Shamim Bhai. Shamim Bhai and Deepak, we were both playing together and I played. And since then I'm much 1985. And since then I'm sort of connected. And I'm so happy that she was there when we were celebrating Abbaji's 100th birthday, and she was there and she blessed, and she came backstage and met, she blessed, and she'll always be special to me, she'll always be special because I remember 85, and so it's just blessing to have people like that, blessing of Ravi ji, blessing of Sukanya ji, it's blessing, it's just and you go forward with this, they take you forward.
Thank you for coming to this episode, which is so special to us. We'll treasure this, your memories. It's now recorded, and I look forward to seeing you soon, Fazal Bhai. You take care of yourself. Thank you.
Look forward, and thank you for inviting me. Mazumdar ji, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Fazal Bhai.
मैं सोचा आप भी कुछ पूछेंगे, मगर
पूछने का जो है पूरा जिम्मा गौरव भाई के पास है. Sorry, Fazal Bhai. Let me add one incident which we were talking about, the concert, the important concert from where Ali Akbar Khan Sahab, Abba Ji, Zakir Bhai, and of course Pandit Ji were accompanied to Mayor. But they also came to Varanasi at that time, if I'm not wrong, Gaurav.
Yes.
And the concert was in the there was a hall in Nagar Nigam concert hall in near about Sigra and all, and there was the concert and they played Raag Sindh Bhairavi, and it started in 8 p.m. in the night and closed at near about 6:30 a.m. in the morning. I was there, very young, मैं वहाँ बैठा था और काफी दिन तक ये जो राग का जो प्ले है ना, ये बनारस स्टेशन में, कैंट स्टेशन में बजता था, अनाउंसमेंट उसमें काफी दिन तक ये बजा.
क्या बात,
तो ये इंसिडेंट्स बहुत लोग को नहीं पता होगा.
Their music, their vibration was absolutely very, very divine, very special,
very divine.
And the kind of repertoire they had, they could play for 7 hours, 8 hours, and without anybody feeling क्या हो रहा है क्या आजकल. मतलब, the kind of repertoire, the kind of development, the music, the way it was developed, and the kind of stamina.
Especially Fazal Bhai, the stage जो था, पंडित जी एक तरफ, and then Zakir Bhai, and इधर Ali Akbar Khan साहब and अल्लाह रखा, मतलब अब्बा जी, ये स्टेज का पूरा वो सीक्वेंस था बनारस का, बहुत अच्छा लगा. And it was really one of the big concerts रिम्पा का हुआ था वो.
इनफैक्ट जो बॉम्बे में जो हुआ था, तो उसमें हम लोग सब स्टेज पे बैठे थे, ऑडियंस में जगह ही नहीं थी. So I have seen one photo, somebody sent it to me. I can't even recognize myself. Way back in 81, अब्बा जी के बगल में मैं बैठा हूँ, फिर उसके बाद रवि जी का है, फिर उसके बाद कोई तानपुरा प्लेयर बैठा हुआ, फिर वहाँ पे कोई पीछे कोई दूसरे म्यूजिशियन और स्टूडेंट्स बैठे हुए हैं, फिर जाकिर भाई, पूरा स्टेज भरा हुआ है. ऐसा लग रहा है कि सभी हिस्सा ले रहे हैं इसके.
Early 80s, Fazal Bhai, early 80s, the stage passes where वो black में बेचा गया था 500 रुपया का.
Can you?
It was and hundreds of people, thousands, they went back disappointed.
Absolutely.
They couldn't get a place to squeeze in. I mean, this is unprecedented. This is absolutely magic, and we will always cherish their music.
And people like him has created that kind of aura for classical musicians, for classical music to have that kind of aura कि भाई इनके भी टिकट ब्लैक में बिकते, फिल्मों के नहीं, क्लासिकल म्यूजिक के टिकट भी ब्लैक में बिक रहे हैं. और people were, I have lined up outside, and somebody had actually come and taken me in, but it is a fact कि लोग इनको सुनने के लिए ऐसे बेताब होते थे और ऐसे झुंड में आते थे, झुंड में, it was just amazing. It is just unprecedented. It's never going to happen again ever.
You can only imagine the hard work which has gone behind, the struggle which has gone behind, and the dedication, commitment, and passion they had for their art. So I bow really. I do pranam to that dedication, that music, these great souls who have.
And he deserved the Bharat Ratna. As we say, he's the Bharat Ratna. He is, and he always will be, because the kind of work he's done, the kind of popularity, the kind of culture he took from here and presented it to everyone. It's just he deserved that, and he deserved whatever government gave. He just deserved it, and his name is forever written in golden letters, in the archives of Indian music, archives of India. It will be right there at the top.
Thank you, Fazal Bhai. You take care, and I'll see you soon. Thanks a lot for coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you, both of you. Fazal Bhai, good night. Gaurav da, good night.
Good night. Good night. Good night.
And to the viewers of Pandit Ravi Shankar Music Foundation, do join us on 15th of July, Thursday, 8 p.m. for a wonderful musical evening with Saroj sisters on our program Musicurum Next Gen, Music of the Next Generation, with Dr. Troli Datta and her sister Mosli Datta. Stay safe. Good night.